Welcome back to Terror by the Bay. I'm David. All right, I've done some readings on the Supreme Court and the 14th Amendment, Section 3 and such. And in those readings, I think the latest one, I think I came up with a ruling. But in previous readings, I always had the feeling like the Supreme Court would try to figure out some way to kick the can down the road so that Trump can stay on the ballots. So in this reading, I'm going to explore two avenues with which the Supreme Court could keep Donald Trump on the ballot and see if either of those look like a likely course of action. The first course of action would be to rule that presidents don't take oaths of office on the Constitution. They don't pledge an oath to the Constitution. If they rule that way, then Section 3 doesn't apply because, as it states, it's for officers who've sworn oaths to the Constitution. And if they rule that the president doesn't technically swear an oath to the Constitution, then the 14th Amendment doesn't apply. The second item was something brought up by a viewer that I hadn't heard of before, and it's called the Purcell Principle. And it's the idea that courts should not change voting or election rules too close to an election in order to avoid confusion for the voters and election officials alike. It comes from an Arizona case where Arizona had a requirement of proof of citizenship when registering to vote and voting in person. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals had temporarily halted that enforcement, and the U.S. Supreme Court overruled the Court of Appeals, saying they couldn't do that because it was too close to an election. Sound familiar with like Judge Ginsburg? So the thought could be that the Supreme Court could say, we would rule on this, but now we're a little bit close to we're too close to the presidential elections here to rule on this, so keep him on the ballot and we'll make a ruling about his qualifications after the elections. And my wife was like, well, then with the election, how could you vote for him if he's later found out to be, unable to hold office? And I guess maybe what happens is once the Electoral College votes, now mind you, I'm completely out of my element here. I have very little knowledge of this. I think if he's put in by the Electoral College, let's say he's disqualified, then maybe he's gone and his vice president becomes president. So you can imagine Kristi Noem and others are really angling to be the vice president because if Trump gets kicked out, then all of a sudden they're the president of the United States. And think of all the fun they can have being the president. So I don't know if that's how it works. I could be completely off base with this one. The Purcell Principle is supposed to be about voting and election rules, not about candidates. But I do wonder if the Supreme Court conservatives could somehow twist this into saying that, well, taking him off the ballot's like an election rule or something along those lines, and all these people challenging Trump being on the ballot should have brought up their challenges sooner, that type of thing. And that would be one way they could kick the can down the road. Okay, so let's see. Come on down. First off, Supreme Court, looking at the 14th Amendment. I should bring up one other thing here. Watching a guy named Hawk on TikTok, he's a lawyer in the Bay Area, San Francisco. He was saying typically with appellate courts, they don't challenge the facts. They challenge the rulings on the facts. So in Colorado, the judge ruled that Trump, she was a bench trial, so there's no jury, just the judge. She ruled that Donald Trump was an insurrectionist. However, she, in her ruling, she said, but since presidents don't swear an oath on the Constitution, he can remain on the ballot. The Colorado Supreme Court then took that case. They didn't challenge the facts. They just challenged her ruling and basically said, we think he actually does swear an oath on the Constitution, so he's disqualified. So now that goes to the Supreme Court. Now the question is the Supreme Court going to look at the Colorado Supreme Court's opinion and say, no, I think they erred. I think the original trial judge was correct, and he's an insurrectionist, but he doesn't swear an oath on the Constitution. So that could be an off-ramp for them to get out of having to rule on this. So let's see how that looks. Entertainment purposes only. Judgment. Okay, Supreme Court's going to have to make judgment on this one. And my question is, are they going to judge that he did not swear an oath on the Constitution? We're crossing with that the Queen of Cups. Whatever judgment they want to make, I don't think it's that they want to keep a lid on it. They want to keep a lid on Americans. They're worried about riots in the street. And no matter which way they go, there's going to be a lot of really unhappy people with it. But it's their job to rule on this. So it's almost like they're going to try and take a ruling that causes the least civil angst. And as we know, as civil angst goes, some of the people who are more immature and who are more likely to riot in the streets don't appear to be the Democrats. Just saying. Could be wrong. Okay. In the past, it's a death card. It's the death of the Supreme Court as we know it. Donald Trump, here again, they got the king being trampled. The king is dead. Long live the king. This is him not winning his election. This is causing the insurrection. This is the ending of the peaceful transfer of power, the January 6th insurrection, and all the chaos that's come from it. Current situation is the Ace of Swords. The Supreme Court, it's their time to judge. That's their function. They're 1/3 of the governments, and it's their job. They're supposed to rule impartially, not emotionally, impartially. And we've got the January 6th insurrection. It's their time to step up and rule for the Constitution. Ace of Wands. They need to take action. They need to take strong action. So they've got the righteous cause, and they have the ability to do it. A pair of aces on there, huh? It's uncharted territory. The question is America going to start a new journey? Or is America going to fall off the cliff? Their decisions impact the election in which way the country goes. The outcome is the Two of Cups. It's an agreement of sorts. Who are they agreeing with? That's the question. Who are they agreeing with? Both parties? With Americans? With everybody on the Supreme Court? Does everybody on the Supreme Court come together and agree on this? Maybe that's what it is. The Supreme Court may have to come together and put aside their political differences and actually rule on the Constitution. All right, so that tells me nothing if they're going to look at the 14th Amendment or not. So let's go some four-carders then. Okay, so I guess in this case, this is giving me the, even though I asked a very specific question, Spirit is like, no. You usually ask, what's the energy around this situation? So I got the energy around the situation, right? Now, let's see how they're going to rule. Will they say that Trump did not swear an oath on the Constitution? All right, come on down. Let's see. How's the Supreme Court going to rule about Trump swearing an oath on the Constitution? Page of Swords. It's a new concept. Not a very strong one, mind you. Temperance. The drunken hillbilly brawl. Weighing it. Ace of Swords. They're going to contemplate this as a ruling. It's not a really strong argument with it, but it's one that they could make and still stay true to the Constitution. We've reviewed the Constitution, and he technically that's why it's a Page of Swords, because it's a technicality. he technically doesn't swear an oath on the Constitution, and we're strong proponents of the Constitution. If they rule this way, and here's your insurrection right there. He didn't swear an oath on the Constitution. Yeah, they had this insurrection on here, and he engaged in insurrection, but he's not an officer of the court. And what this does is this buys time for the elections, and it buys time for the Supreme Court. It's like, okay, well, yeah, we agree he was an insurrectionist, but he didn't swear an oath to the Constitution, so technically he can still run, and we'll let the voters decide. We'll let the voters decide what their values are. Do we want an insurrectionist in the White House, even though they didn't sign that? I think the other thing with this is that then we kick it over to Congress. It's up to Congress to pass laws or pass an amendment to the Constitution to ensure that the president swears an oath to the Constitution. Amongst the other things that they have to do in here. And this, keeps Trump on the ballot. Maybe it's not the greatest that the Supreme Court says he's an insurrectionist, but it's one way to sort of keep things going and still, quote unquote, stay true to the Constitution. Excuse me. All right. What about the Purcell Principle? Will the Supreme Court try and twist the Purcell Principle into their ruling to somehow kick the can down the road on this? If they really didn't didn't swear an oath to the Constitution, all the state challenges to the insurrection are done that are based on the 14th Amendment, Section 3. There's some other challenges that would come forward, but that should essentially kill most of them. And then the Purcell Principle maybe addresses some others. Let's see. Will the Supreme Court use the Purcell Principle as a reason to keep Donald Trump on the 2024 ballot? The hillbilly drunken brawl. A lot of fighting and squabbling. Confusion. This is about Purcell Principle. Can't cause all that confusion with last minute action. Yep, there we go. Everybody's going to be confused. They're all going to be running around going, we don't know what to do. How do we take them off the ballot? This is going to screw everything up. The walking away. Oh, yeah. I think they're going to use the Purcell Principle too. They're going to say it's too close. It's going to cause too much chaos in the election. And we really care about our elections. We need things to be calm and peaceful during the election and value our elections and our choices. And this is going to be too disruptive. They will talk about voter disenfranchising, and that if you do that, then it's going to be unfair to the GOP and stuff like that. And, well, we're just stuck. We're just stuck with this. We can't do anything about it. We're just victims of our laws and such things as that. And we just can't tell him to leave because we want him to leave, and the fact that he's an insurrectionist and he broke the law and stuff like that. I think using the Purcell Principle, if they kick Trump off, it's going to be rioting in the streets if they kick him off, because people that support him are crazy, and it's almost like, oh, we can't do this to the United States. It's almost like they don't rule on the Constitution. I think they will use this as well. And their argument's going to be it's going to cause chaos and confusion by kicking them off, so we should just be stuck and leave them on. confusing readings. What's the lesson to be learned from all of this? From all these court cases bringing Trump to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court's eventual assessment, debating, and ruling. What is it that we're supposed to learn from all this? Who wants to stay on top? We're all one big happy country. You know what I think it is? It all works out in the end anyways. Despite all this, Ace of Swords, Page of Swords, Two of Cups, it all works out. The truth is revealed. Despite the unprecedented nature of this, despite people's strong feelings and the righteousness with which we defend the Constitution and a democracy, we work it out. The voters come together, vote for who they think should be president, and America is better for it. So, despite everything, despite all this chaos and everything like that that's going on, get out and vote. Vote like your democracy depends on it, because it does. Get like-minded people out there to vote. Make sure they're out there voting. And it doesn't matter whether or not the Supreme Court rules in favor of Donald Trump or doesn't. It doesn't matter if they kick him off the ballots or leave him on the ballots. It won't matter. In the end, this is going to work out. We're going to choose democracy. The Democrats are going to win. All you have to do is your part, which is control your actions and get out there and vote. And if you can, contribute or use your sphere of influence around your family and around your close friends, and especially like-minded ones, to convince them that their vote really, really matters in this election, and get them out there. Okay? And then all of this ends up being drama. We look at it a year from now and say, wow, we were really, really worked up over this, and it worked out. The problem is we can't flip the pages ahead to a couple chapters ahead to see how it all turns out. If you knew that, then you can look at this and say, oh man, don't stress out over that. We'll be fine. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. All right, there you go. So don't stress. We'll get through this. What happens, happens. It's going to happen for a reason. Do your part, and America will be better for it. Okay? Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for all your likes and shares and everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so that my video makes it out to a wider audience. To new viewers and new subscribers to the channel, welcome. I hope you found this reading insightful. If you want to learn more about international politics and events, I have another channel called Tarot of the Seven Seas. I'll have a box here, right there, and I'll have another circle there, or the other way around, where you can click on a link to Tarot of the Seven Seas and see some of the readings that I've got going on over there. All right, I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.